Hey guys, it's Mathel here once again with a pretty nice update on the Hollowed Palm Unarmed Monk action, which got to maps early yesterday and then blasted a whole day of maps and went from pretty humble beginnings from the start of maps to a character that I'm pretty well happy with to take to higher tiers. It is as I expected. It definitely has somewhat of a certain flaw to the gearing of Hollow Palm where you pretty much need to get a few of the right things in a few of the right places, and then it'll start to feel pretty damn good. It's going to be just a bit more of a journey than most other characters because, well, for starters, you're melee, and second of all, there's some fucked up shit going on in the game at the moment. The main thing I'm talking about here is these abyssal maps. If you've been mapping and come across some of these, you know what I'm talking about. There's definitely some broken shit happening at the moment in the game where during these abyss-infested maps, there's pretty much the entire map's worth of content in just this small space, and it's doing something fucking wrong because the rest of the map is basically empty and it lags the shit out of your PC, and it's super dangerous content. Obviously, even without anything being bugged, it's pretty dangerous content either way. So this was my character back during Act 4. Once we hit Act 4 is when it was getting a little bit more difficult for the unarmed monk for Hollow Palm. You pretty much did need to make sure you were upgrading your gear. It's just hard to do that in SSF and like early game conditions. So if you're making this as like a second character, you probably have a pretty good time, I think. You'll be able to get a bit of flat damage on gear. You'll be able to like have evasion, life, resists, that sort of thing. And I think you'll have a pretty good time. It's not going to be as blasty as plenty of other things, but if you combo your skills right, it feels pretty fucking cool to play. So it's just a bit weak balancing wise with nothing, if you've got nothing to work with. But I had no real issue going through all of Act 4. It felt comfortably paced for me. It felt okay. Killed every boss first try pretty comfortably, except for the final one, which one-shot me once. So I had to do it a second time. And then the interlude bosses weren't really any different either. You could noticeably, see yourself slow down a little bit as the zones got higher in level if you didn't get any real upgrades. But for the most part, pretty much all these interlude bosses were something we did very comfortably first try, and it wasn't a big deal. I think, with better gear and, better scaling through, I guess, gem levels, when you've got higher gem levels a second time around and stuff, it should be pretty face roll. It sucks that there's a bit of a balance disparity for sure. You're going to pick one character and you'll probably absolutely face roll the campaign. You pick another character and you're playing like 10 times hard mode. But it is what it is. We're still at early access. We're still playing a game made by GGG, who has the occasional gaff here or there. But for the most part, the campaign was pretty damn fun, and I did enjoy Act 4, and even the new interludes were kind of cool. It did give me an appetite for the rest of the campaign so I could finish off the lore and stuff, because I'm actually pretty invested at this point. We have been, I think, spoiled for the lore and get to know more about the world we've been living in for the past 12 years or something with Path of Exile, but now finally getting at a proper bit of story building out of the game, and I think it's pretty cool. So this was the boss that was killing everyone in the interlude, supposedly, and he's already been nerfed. This was me fighting him before the nerfs, and he one-shot me one time, and then the second time around just went in, froze him a few times and stuff, and it went pretty well. So if you use everything at your disposal, the bell, once again, is decent, but not absolutely mandatory this time around in this patch. All our freeze and stuff, it feels pretty good. The damage is not too bad. So, of course, it's really hard to get Hollow Palm scaling early on because the node scales hugely off of gear. So this is basically near the end of the stream yesterday, just before I put on Shattering Palm. So Shattering Palm is the one during the starting clips that spreads out a big cold AoE that then shatters things if you kill them. With this this is near the end of my stream yesterday. I was at tier 4 or 5 maps. I started out pretty damn rough by all means because I entered mapping with like 20 to each resist, maybe like 30 or 40 evasion, and my damage was a little low. So once I played for a couple hours, made some extra upgrades, got my ascendancy, that's when we started to really take off. And like I said, Hollow Palm scales pretty desperately off of gear, so the more evasion, the more energy shield you get, which is just something that's only really available past level 60. That's when you're going to really start to see some big increases in your attack speed. That's when you're going to be able to start to go crit, and that's when things are actually going to start ramping quite nicely. Once I started going crit, my damage felt like it was skyrocketing, and then once I started getting the evasion in the right places, my attack speed felt really fluid and smooth. And at this point, the build feels pretty fucking ninja. So I do love the animations on Hollow Palm and Unarmed Monk and stuff. This is the boss version of, well, the tier 6 boss version, I think. So it's just a little extra piece of content you can do on the map. So yeah, things start to feel pretty damn cool. And then, like, to get back to the Abyss thing, this is the pretty much dumbest Abyss map I came across while testing the Shattering Palm, so I could, make a bit more about this video. And yeah, something's definitely ruined, even without these bugs. Abyss is pretty damn lethal. By the time we've got a good character, Abyss wasn't like threatening me too much anymore. You can damn near one-shot the res. I did multiple abyssal depths. So once you've got a real character, Abyss does start to feel kind of okay. But of course, melee is going to be a bit more challenging and have a bit more of a gear requirement to get in there and start taking some damage and doing some face tanking and stuff. But this over here is just a whole nother story. I think it's a corrupted map as well, so a lot of these packs are spawning corrupted juice, and there's just thousands of mobs here. Like, Path of Exile 1 could not compete with the buggy mess that this is right now as far as mob density. I could only imagine what Essence Drain Contagion characters are doing to this mess right now. Like, there's got to be several thousand mobs all in one place here, and it would probably wipe them all out in one button, or two buttons, but in one action of a skill, and it would be disgusting. But I still have a lot of fun trying this out, and I'm going to keep doing it as well, like on, as I progress my maps. I'm happy with where my character's at right now. I'm absolutely going to show you guys off little bit of a full guide here after this clip because yeah, it's going well, and I don't think it's a huge requirement to get a monk up to this stage. It's just going to be really hard to do solo self-found. My character in total is probably worth less than a divine at the moment, but it is mostly through trade, putting together certain pieces of gear. So it's feeling pretty good, and I like where it's going. I'm not too sold on the Chiola Monk at all. Compared to like Invoker. I've been trying it out. I've been testing the Ascendancy and stuff, and the volatility is just a difficult to use system, which might be kind of powerful sometimes. The Chiola Flames for the purple flames are sometimes okay, and maybe some passive damage income, but it's kind of hard to tell, and it's kind of hard to justify over something very reliable and very strong like the Invoker. So that's where we're at. I'm happy with the character. I'm not too sold on Acolyte Sheila, and I will absolutely keep blasting until I probably hit tier 15s and maybe even level 90. So I don't know if there's going to be another update after this, because I'm more or less fleshed out as a character and just keep leveling and upgrading. But if there is, I'll absolutely post something for like the end game. But right now is probably going to be just about all the guide you'll ever need for the little Hollow Palm Monk that yeah, is just doing some T-posing for us right now, where obviously the game is in a bit of a buggy state here. So with that, let me go ahead and show you everything about this monk so far. So here's the monk at this point. He's level 77, Acolyte Sheila, as you can see. Even at the, those maps and the clips I was just showing, my res have never been capped. So my lightning's currently like at 40. For most of my mapping so far, my lightning was at like 20. So it's been boosted a bit. But yeah, obviously capping res isn't, super important in the low tiers, as long as you got some other good defenses. So my evasion's not too bad. I've got some deflect as well, and it's better when I'm actually attacking as well. We gain a bit more evasion thanks to some of the passives, but for sure you want to try and come close to capping, if not capping your res. That's going to be pretty important if you want to take some damage. But At around 50% evasion, it does start to feel like it's actually doing something with the buff to evasion where, you know, you can evade everything. So it does get you feeling kind of thick, but aside from that, we do also have some, energy shield on top of that. So the main thing is just upgrading gear across the board. So evasion and energy shield on your chest piece is going to be pretty important. And currently, this is what I've got. It was a 1 chaos item, so Cosprey's Will is not something people have been really using too much. Of course, you can get a rare chest with much more evasion ES, and then also like deflect rating and stuff. That would be cool. But given this thing's pretty cheap, and it also does some cool things like mean that we only have to curse 1 time. We get Withering Presence, and Wither Inflicted is infinite, so that helps with our chaos damage scaling as well. And then it also actually looks pretty cool. So our monk right now is looking pretty damn solid. And that's just more or less in-game stuff. I took off the Helm MTX, so then we look like this. But yeah, you kind of want Evasion Energy Shield on your chest. You want big Energy Shield on your hat. This thing I think was, I don't know, 5, 10 chaos, something like that. But because of the node on the tree that gives us extra evasion per energy shield, you may as well just get energy shield on your hat and then get a bit of extra evasion because of that. But those 2 items are mostly where I'm getting all my extra crits. So that's going to be like an extra 6 base crit, more or less. And then just trying to get evasion. So I got evasion on gloves, a little bit of evasion, energy shield on boots there. But for the most part, that is where we're scaling for our hollow palm node. Once you get this type of kind of evasion, mostly from the chest, you do start to feel pretty fast on your attacks. That's just default attack with no supports or anything, whereas that's Ice Strike with a few supports. And you can see it takes off. It starts to feel pretty fucking cool, and it looks pretty cool too. So I'm not sure almost any of my gear at the moment is self-found. Plus levels of skills on your gloves is your gloves and your amulet is going to be pretty important for extra damage, because it's one of the only ways we can really truly scale extra damage for our build. Attack speed as well is pretty damn good, and I do encourage getting some leech, Fizz Leech as mana somewhere on your gear. So you can get it like on gloves and rings, I think, and maybe even amulet. But once you get that and then also spec into this, that's when mana starts to feel quite a bit nicer. So up until this point, which is like 2 levels ago, I was just pressing the mana flask a lot and also had some mana regen on gear. That's mostly how I took care of mana. But once you get that leech and then the leech convert, it pretty much sustains by itself. As long as you're at a higher level and do some real damage, then that leech does kick in pretty well. So I think it was this ring here I got from the quest reward, so pretty nice ring just for resist and stuff. This one also from some sort of, drop or something. So I think that stuff is solely self-found, and likewise with the belt, because it's kind of a piece of shit. But otherwise, I went out and bought boots that have some movement speed and some deflect rating. These weren't very expensive, I don't know, 5 or 10x or something. And the amulet is probably my biggest purchase. I think I paid 40x for it, because currently amulets that have +2 or 3 melee skill levels are going to be pretty expensive, especially if you want any additional stats on them. Also then Anointed Instability, which is this thing over here to try and utilize my volatility a bit better. I don't know if it's worth it. Probably not, but I'm at least trying, and that's something, because previously I was spec'd into fully this and doing the flames purple, which are okay, they do something, but it's a bit weird. So then once I did my 3rd ascendancy, I unspec'd that and then went fully into this to try out the volatility and to also try out unraveling. Unraveling has potential to be cool, I think, especially if we don't deal, lots of different types of damage, so that we just have all this extra different ailment to build up from our chaos. The problem is, as you can see, it can sometimes pick the same thing multiple times in a row. If it actually properly rotated, it'd be pretty okay, but sometimes it's just going to pick ignite 4 times in a row, and that's not going to do much good. It's still not bad. I just wish it was like the first 2 points, because you might not want to fuck with the volatility at all, because it is weird. So volatility is basically just going to give you stacks of this volatility as you start ailmenting things, and it will detonate after 4 seconds, giving you a buff for 10 seconds. Now that can be pretty powerful, but it just is very weird to use. Like basically you're going to get 100 stacks, and if you want to then utilize that, you have to basically back off and just wait a few seconds and then attack. and it makes it for a pretty weird thing to use like during most combat and especially during bosses. So sometimes, yeah, but otherwise it's just like free damage in between packs when sometimes you haven't attacked for a while. And yes, you can have a support gem that detonates your volatility, but it's also a random amount, so it doesn't even detonate all of it. And it also means that you have to be using an extra skill that will only detonate volatility. So you could, for example, put it on your melee default attack, and then maybe that's fine. But yeah, I'll still mess around with that. Overall, it's probably just better to go Invoker if you want a stronger character, but I'm fucking around with Chonk for the theme of it, and it's got some redeeming features, but it's still pretty jank. So with that, the tree is now looking like this. Still pretty much the same as before, except I've now gone towards some crit and stuff. So I've got these crit blinder nodes. These were the last things I spec'd as I've started to build up my crit and all that. I went through this little evasion area. I got this melee strike range stuff and melee damage, and this deflect wheel or little deflect area here, which I might cut because it's not super efficient. I got this crit. I got a couple of crit jewels that just do crit. That's pretty much it. And a little bit of evasion, I think. Crit evasion, that's pretty much it. And with the gear, with some crit on your tree, it's enough to start actually being crit. So I think yeah, at 33%, like unbuffed without anything else, 270 on the crit damage. From here on out, basically need to start specking more crit damage and a bit more crit. And there's a lot of it are out there. You know, each node is going to be worth 15. We might travel to another wheel, but it's feeling pretty good. You just need all the right stuff in all the right places, and it's going to start to feel good. So the current setup now is Into the Breach with Harmonic, Remnant, and Clarity, which, you know, was helping my mana out. I would probably like to put another spirit thing in, like Wind Dancer or Ghost Dance, something like that. But for now, I'm just using more Spirit Reservation. Withering Presence is free over here. Charged Staff now has Perpetual, Heightened Senses, Prolonged Duration, and I'm currently trying out Culling Strike on it. I don't know if it's super worth it, because it's not, you know, all that great, but it doesn't seem terrible, so I might just put more damage on it. I don't know. Wind Blast I'm still using when I need to actually like do things for ranged, because sometimes you are just really not allowed to melee. But at the same time, I might get rid of it so I can actually fit some stuff in, and then I'm just going to be pure melee. Mantra of Destruction I'm still using just for making the bell thicker and then getting some extra purple flames at Chiola. The bell currently now has Magnified Area, Close Combat, Heavy Swing, and Rage Forged. Herald of Ice is on Magnified Area and Ellie Focus. Not sure if that's correct, but currently that's what's happening. Ice Strike over here has Rapid Attacks 2, Crescendo 3. So your ancestrally boosted skill is going to be like an extra couple of copies and will also help hit the bell. Rage 3, so we get Rage up pretty quick and also more attack speed while not at max Rage. And then Ice Bite, which will do extra cold damage for all of our stuff as long as we've attacked recently. And I was using Tempest Flurry, but just now I'm experimenting with Shattering Palm for the clear, because otherwise I was using both skills, Tempest Flurry more for single target and for shocking things very powerfully, and that had Lightning Attunement, Crescendo 3, Rapid Attacks, and Close Combat, but currently Shattering Palm is what I'm using for some extra clear, and it's Magnified Area, Ellie Armament, and Cold Pen. Hand of Chiola is still absolutely the best way to apply curses. Make sure you are leveling your curse as well, because otherwise you can't apply it to high level enemies, and it doesn't take the mana cost into consideration, so that's pretty nice for us. So we've got Hand of Sheila, Ellie Weakness, Voltaic Mark, and Rapid Attacks 3, and then Close Combat. Combat Frenzy just has Charge Profusion attached at the moment. So that's currently where we're at. If I'm going to spec more, it's just probably going to be some extra crit. Maybe I'll go up this way. Maybe it's still worth doing some other kind of crit nodes. But yeah, for the most part, could be a bit more defense, could be a bit more crit. We'll have to wait and see. But the character's feeling pretty good. I just want to fix my res up and get out there and do some more fistings. I do love the theme of the Hollow Palm Unarmed Monk. I do think it starts out a little weak, but there is definitely some kind of light at the end of the tunnel, and you can start to have quite a bit of fun with it. I think anyway. It feels like a cool build. Hopefully it goes all the way. We'll have to wait and see. But it's just Acolyte of Chiola. It's a bit weird and probably not super worth it. If I might commit to it, I might respec to Invoker. We'll see. Because I'm feeling a bit 50-50 on it. Like sometimes I like it, sometimes I'm thinking, is my ascendancy even doing anything? So yeah, with that, that's hopefully the full guide and full understanding of what's happening with Hollow Palm Monk. Previous video too can also help understand some of the early game. With that, hope you guys are having a good time. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time.